Welcome to The Explainer. You know, it's pretty wild that a sequence of movements practiced thousands of years ago actually holds up flawlessly against modern biomechanical science. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to unpack exactly that. We're taking a real deep dive into the layers of Surya Namaskar, or as you probably know it, the sun salutation. We're pulling apart the whole shebang, the anatomy, the energy, and the precise clinical alignment that makes the sequence so incredibly powerful. Okay, let's dive right in. Is the sun salutation just a warm-up or a biomechanical masterpiece? Think about it. So often we see people just kind of rushing through these poses at the start of a fitness class, right? Treating it like it's just some quick stretching routine to get the heart rate up. But honestly, reducing it to a simple warm-up completely misses the genius of its design. It's actually a highly engineered sequence that leverages complex anatomical principles to literally transform the body. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the systemic benefits. Second, we'll map out the 12-step physical sequence. Third, we'll cover synchronizing breath and solar mantras. And finally, the clinical biomechanics for safe practice. All right, layer 1, systemic benefits. When done correctly, Surya Namaskar is actually a profound neurological tool. The sheer scope of what this sequence accomplishes is just fascinating. Musculoskeletally, you are actively engaging your spinal extensors, your deltoids, and those deep core stabilizers. But it goes way deeper than that. The synchronized breathing enhances your respiratory lung function and promotes really deep circulatory oxygenation. Neurologically, it acts to harmonize the balance between your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, which means, crazy enough, it can energize you and reduce stress at the exact same time. It even reaches the endocrine system, stimulating your thyroid, pituitary, and adrenal glands. So, yeah, this isn't just stretching. It's a total body conditioning package that primes you for the day. Moving on to layer 2, the 12-step sequence. Let's map out the kinetic chain of this classical flow. The sequence brilliantly begins and ends in the exact same place. Steps 1 and 12 are pranamasana, or the prayer pose. You stand at the edge of your mat with your feet together, balancing your weight equally. Now, it looks simple, but finding true, equal balance across both feet, it's definitely harder than it looks. This establishes immediate physical and mental grounding. It exercises the shoulder, back, and neck muscles, all while promoting this deep sense of presence before the dynamic movement even begins. From that grounding, we move powerfully into expansion. Steps 2 and 11 feature Hasta Uttanasana, the raised arms pose. As your arms lift, notice how your body creates this beautiful synchronous curve. You're deeply engaging the spinal extensors here, moving the spine into extension. And this doesn't just tone the back, it actively promotes flexibility all the way down through the hips. And this right here brilliantly illustrates the balance of the sequence, moving from extension directly into flexion. Steps 3 and 10 are Hastapadasana, or the hand-to-foot pose. You hinge forward at the hips, creating a deep stretch in the hamstrings. Actually, scratch that. It's more like an intense active lengthening. If your hamstrings are absolutely screaming here, you are not alone. But this shift is actively stimulating your spinal nerves and your lymphatic system while actively toning the abdominal tracts. Next up, we drop into steps 4 and 9, Ashwasanchalanasana, the equestrian pose. By stepping one foot back into a lunge and dropping the knee, you drastically open up the lower kinetic chain. For anyone sitting at a desk all day, which is, let's face it, most of us, this deep engagement and opening of the psoas is the ultimate antidote. It builds phenomenal strength and flexibility in the lower body, all while keeping your chest nice and open. I really want to highlight step 8, Parvatasana, which forms this iconic inverted V shape. This serves as the peak of the sequence before we begin our return journey. And it beautifully illustrates a biomechanical principle called reciprocal inhibition, which basically means as you contract one set of muscles, the opposing muscles actively lengthen. Pushing those heels toward the floor strengthens your wrists and arms, while simultaneously releasing neck tension and heavily stimulating blood circulation straight to the heart and head. Okay, layer 3, breath and solar mantras. We've mapped the physical body, so now it's time to shift to the subtle layer, elevating this practice from a mere physical workout into a moving meditation. The absolutely crucial point of this entire sequence is the vinyasa, the continuous flow of movement linked directly to the breath. This relies on Ujjayi pranayama. That's when you synchronize your movement with slightly audible, regulated diaphragmatic breathing. Think of it like a soft oceanic sound right in the back of your throat. Your breath acts as an internal metronome. Every movement of expansion matches an inhale,
every movement of contraction matches an exhale. Without this piece, you completely lose the neurological benefits. To deepen this moving meditation, traditionally, specific Sanskrit mantras are silently chanted at each stage. For instance, in step 1, on the exhale, Om Mitraya Namaha honors the friend of all. Then, as you inhale into the back bend of step 2, Om Ravaya Namaha, salutations to the radiant one. The intonations and vibrational meanings of these mantras are designed to cultivate inner harmony. They focus your mind entirely on the qualities of the sun, creating this profound sense of spiritual connection and positivity. Finally, layer 4, clinical biomechanics and safe practice. This is critical because repetitive misalignments in this powerful sequence can actually lead to chronic injury. Let's look at the first major fault. On the left, sagging hips in Dandasana, or plank pose. When your hips sag like this, you place severe shear forces directly on the L4 and L5 vertebrae of your lumbar spine, risking a disc bulge. No thanks, right? The fix, over on the right, is to actively engage the transverse abdominis. Think of pulling your navel toward your spine, like you're wrapping a tight muscular corset around your lower back. It perfectly protects your spine. Here's another incredibly common mistake. On the left, letting the knee extend way past the ankle during lunges. We literally see this in almost every single fitness class. This biomechanical fault creates really high shearing forces on the knee joint. It strains the ACL and the patellar tendon, which risks patellofemoral pain syndrome over time. The structural fix on the right is simple but vital. Maintain a strict 90-degree angle. Your front shin must remain entirely perpendicular to the floor. All right, let's move to forward folds. The fault on the left is rounding the lower back, which shifts the pressure off the hamstrings and right onto your delicate intervertebral discs. The clinical fix, shown on the right, is to hinge directly from the hip crease. The goal here is abdomen to thigh, not nose to knee. Leaving your ego at the door and bending your knees generously is what ultimately protects your lumbar discs and allows your pelvis to tilt forward safely. And finally, we have the most subtle but probably the most impactful fault, holding your breath. Look, we've all been guilty of holding our breath during a tough transition until we practically turn blue. But doing so spikes your blood pressure, creates a ton of muscular tension, and completely defeats the stress-reducing magic of the flow. The fix? Just let the breath lead the movement. Your breath has to be the metronome. So, I want to leave you with this question. How will you incorporate breath, mantra, and clinical alignment into tomorrow morning's practice? You now understand the systemic depth, the specific anatomical steps, the power of Ujjayi breath and mantras, and the clinical safety checks. The sun salutation is a biomechanical and energetic masterpiece, but only if you choose to unlock it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now go take these layers straight to your mat.